Greetings, everybody. Chris Dagger right here for another episode of Christ in the Car. And today I want to talk about a practice that we as Christians have in our life, something that we should be exercising every day, multiple times a day, and it is prayer. Now, if I compare Christianity with the Muslim faith, the Muslims actually have 5 mandatory prayers per day at different times throughout the day. Now, I'm not saying that Christianity has to be the same, but I really respect the fact that Muslims have that devotion to God several times a day. Once again, I don't think it's necessary to pray 5 times a day, or 4 times a day, or 3 times a day. But it is important to pray whenever you feel the need to pray, but also whenever it's time to be grateful for something. Now, the prayer life is a very special thing because it's so personal and malleable to the person's wants, desires, needs, circumstances, but it has to be treated carefully. Now, here's where I'm going with this. A lot of people that do have faith in God, that believe in God, might start praying to God for different things that are not of God. Some of these reasons, some of these things that we might be praying for might seem legitimate on the surface. To give you a few examples, if you're struggling financially, you might be praying to God, hey God, like I need this job opportunity. I need to start a business. I need to generate income. God, I need you to pull me out of this financial rut, either for myself, for my wife, for my family, for my husband, for my cousins, my close ones, my friends. I need to be a provider, which is legitimate. 1 Timothy talks about that. Now, another example could be, hey God, I really need to pass this test. I'm in university and I don't want to fail this exam. Now, these things on the surface seem legitimate, more legitimate than praying, hey God, I want to be a multi-billionaire and buy 10 Ferraris. That in of itself doesn't sound legitimate. It is illegitimate. It is very vain. It's very, could I say stupid? Or it's spiritually immature, let's say, to pray in that way. But think about the former things I talked about, like getting pulled out of a financial rut or having to pass an exam that you're very anxious about. I've been through university myself. I'm a PhD student right now, so I've seen a lot of schooling. Bachelor's degree, several certificates, a master's degree now, halfway done a PhD. Like I've seen quite a bit, and I know that anxiety. I know that stressful, dreadful torture of going through academia, of going through having to prove yourself for a professor, having to negotiate for a couple of extra marks here and there just to pass a test, just to bolster a grade. It is stressful. It is very, painful. And I understand that praying for something to get out of something painful, like struggling financially, which causes stress, having to pass an exam, another source of stress, like praying to God to eliminate these stresses out of your life is very, very important. But here's the underlying reality behind it all. Ask yourself, is it God's will? Maybe it's God's will for you to go through that financial struggle that you're going through. Maybe it's God's will for you to fail that course in order to understand that maybe this class or this degree or this program is not for you and you need to pivot towards something else. Maybe God will allow failure in order for you to get a better grade afterwards, or to meet someone else in that same course that you're going to retake, someone who's going to help you go through that course, that class, in a more successful way, maybe for you to score a better grade with another professor. And I've been through that. I failed maybe 5 or 6 classes during my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree in biochemistry in 4.5 years, but it's a 3-year program, and I struggled a lot. It's an extremely difficult degree. I failed a lot, but I understand that those failures were not in vain. Those failures taught me that, that course, that class, you should have never taken that. Not at that moment. Yeah, you should have probably taken less classes during that fall semester. You should have balanced things out in order to maybe graduate sooner. I learned lessons because of my poor decision making back when I was 21 and 22. and then graduated late, actually, at 23, because I started at about 19 years old. But that whole 4.5-year experience really taught me a lot about myself and about how to do things properly in the future, about how not to rush things. And sometimes we fail at different things and we struggle financially and academically and in other spheres of our life and other aspects of our life because of self-inflicted pressures and piss poor decision making. Excuse my language. That's why sometimes God allows these troubles and these pains to occur, because pain is temporary, but God's glory is forever. And if you want to partake in God's glory, make sure that you're praying for the right things. It's okay to pray to get out of financial struggles. It's okay to pray to succeed academically. All these things are fine. All these things are okay, and it's okay to pray for these things, and it's normal, and God will lend an ear to these things. But unfortunately, God does not answer every single prayer. I'll give you an example. In 2 Corinthians, I believe, Paul was praying for this thorn in his side to be removed. He prayed 3 times. It says in the King James, I prayed thrice, 3 times. But God did not pull that thorn out of his side. Now, scholars are debating whether or not this was an actual thorn, or was this a symbolic thorn, or more than likely it was probably some sort of struggle that Paul had, whether it was health related or psychologically related or spiritually related or financially related. Like, it was a struggle and it was permanently there. But Paul realized that this struggle, this pain, in the end, in his wisdom, was God's way to draw Paul nearer to him. And one verse that followed that particular passage was, my grace is sufficient. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried, I wept twice just thinking about that verse. My grace is sufficient. Whatever you're praying for, know that thing. Know that His grace is sufficient for your life. When you're saved by grace, through faith, you're receiving His grace in order to have salvation, in order to be saved, in order to secure that salvation, because there's a life after this. There's a life after the financial struggles. There's a life after your academics, whether you're a success or a failure at them. There's a life after finding the right person, getting married to them, and building a family. Because in the end, we all die alone. You're alone in that casket. There's a life after your career, after your retirement. There's a life after that, those businesses that you're building, after that job that you're going to. There's a life after life. After all these things in life, there's another life. There's an afterlife. And that afterlife is with God in heaven. And that's His grace. That's what He means. That's one thing out of the many things that He means when He says, my grace is sufficient. My grace that I'm giving onto you. My grace that was given onto you by my resurrection on the cross. God through Christ is manifesting that and expressing that. The finished work on the cross is His grace. And it's what basically is needed by everybody. This is what you need. His resurrection on the cross, the faith that you put in Him, bringing Christ into your heart, making your body the temple of the Holy Spirit, of the triune God, walking with God, holding Jesus' hand on your walk in life towards salvation, towards the afterlife, given unto you by His grace, buttresses the fact that His grace is sufficient, no matter what you're praying for. I wish that every single person's prayers gets answered. I wish that every person's desires and wants and needs are satisfied and fulfilled and catered to. I really wish that for everybody, out of the kindness of my heart. I wish that my own prayers, selfishly, that my own demands and requests are answered. But I know not all of them will be. And in due time, in our prayer life, in our waiting upon God, Psalm 27:14, verse 14, I know that through all of that, our prayer life is more than just responses to our prayers. It's a consolidation of our faith, of our walk with God, hand in hand with Jesus Christ. That's what it's all about. That's a deeper, more elusive, indirect, nebulous meaning behind all this. It's the prayer life is not only about the prayer. It's about our faith life. Your prayer is a manifestation and a practice of your faith. That's what you need to know about prayer. Yes, pray for health. Yes, pray for that person, that relative that is going through heart surgery in a couple of days, that's been battling Alzheimer's for 5 years, that's been doing chemotherapy for a year or two to fight off their cancer. Yes, pray for those things. And I wish upon God and the angels, I wish upon the Lord that these prayers be answered. I really do. I know a lot of people are suffering. Psychologically, it's on their mind. They can't get it off their mind that this family member has cancer, or this other family member has multiple sclerosis, or this uncle is super broke and unable to pay his debt, or this person can't pay their taxes, they might wind up in prison. And the list of problems and issues go on because of our fallen world. But one thing that I can reassure you with is don't ever give up on prayer. A lot of people, atheists, pragmatics, are going to be like, well, what are you talking about? Take action. Screw prayer. Like, well, why the heck are you praying? Nobody's going to answer. There's no celestial being that's going to just, show up like a genie in the sky and give you whatever you want. That's not going to happen. A lot of people are going to think that. If you truly have faith, you're going to hang on to that prayer, whether or not it's answered. You will. Because there are so many things to pray about. Some of those prayers will be answered. Don't ever lose that gratitude. Don't ever forget God at the end of those prayers. Sometimes I prayed, hey God, like after very hard exams, like, I just wish I passed this course. And when I'd received that grade, knowing that I passed a course that really tortured me, gosh, I'd be like, thank you, God. I will not forget about you. I'm always going to be in debt and in gratitude towards you for helping me through this. Unfortunately, a lot of people forget about God when they receive what they want after those prayers, and God knows that in advance. God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. He knows everything before they happen, before they unfold. He knows that you're going to be ungrateful if He grants you this thing, if He pulls that thorn out of your side. But remember this: prayer is a practice. It's a perpetual practice that bolsters your faith, that proves your faith in God. Yes, take action. Don't just pray and be lazy. No, you have to get up and do whatever is needed. Don't just sit on your hands and not do anything. Yes, you may take action. Make sure that you pray to know which action to take. Make sure that through your prayer you're giving God the wheel, the steering wheel to the car of your life. That He's the one driving you around according to His will. And as you're waiting, make sure that every action that you take is in accordance with His will, with your prayer and with your faith, so that you're always loyal to Him and maintain that loyalty through prayer. Please do so as a faithful Christian. So I want to say, God bless you all. Stay holy, and on to the next one.